Welcome to another review and recap for episode 6 of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Lift Us Where Suffering Cannot Reach. Man, this was another good episode. Again, Paramount, showing that they doing right with the Star Trek franchise with that license. And like I said, this is another episode. Gave you a lot to think about as far as like Starfleet, seeing the past of Starfleet and their interaction with worlds outside of the Federation space, worlds that have accepted the Federation's help. And this episode starts us off with the crew arriving at the Magellan Station system. And we see, your girl Uhura. She's kind of like training with Leon and training to be do security. We get to see her be a little bit of everything as we see through this show. She's kind of bouncing around a little bit. She's doing communication, she's doing a little bit of security, she's doing engineering. We see her do a little bit of everything in the show, which I really, really appreciate, because as we get to regular Star Trek, we kind of see her just kind of play, I don't want to say a minor role, but just doesn't do as much as she clearly, as Spock and Kirk and a couple other people. She's still a big character, but I'm glad that we get to see a little bit more of her fleshed out in this show. Definitely, other than just sitting in front of the console listening to calls. And I really like her character. I really like the actress that plays her character. And I really like her friendship with Leon in this show too. And we definitely get a little bit more of that, within this episode. And of course, this comes into, we see the Enterprise doing what the Enterprise does, and responding to a distress call from unknown ship, and they wound up helping the ship, which is attacking the Enterprise. They wound up attacking attacking that ship after being shot upon, and then we get Kirk, I'm sorry, not Kirk, Pike, beaming them aboard the ship. As we see this, we see that Pike sees and knows one of the people that he's beaming aboard, a woman by the name of Valora, who he's met in the past on a previous mission. So it kind of lets his guard down. You could tell that he had feelings for her at some point in time, and maybe it just didn't happen. And of course, Una's like, "Hey, you know who this is?" But we definitely see, like, as they arrive on the ship, that their connection and what we get between those two characters. We also arriving on the ship as well, as we get a character by the name of the First Servant and his father, who've been beamed aboard, and due to whatever was going on, he needs to investigate that his son still has his neural implants in place. We also get a cut of the Dr. Ubanga. I'm trying to get this name right. Him talking to his daughter, who we know is kind of stuck in between, like the transport. I forgot how to explain it, but like almost a suspended animation, so that she doesn't age and her cells don't continue to degrade because of the disease she has, as her father continues to look for a cure. We get kind of a slight hint that it might be possible to cure his daughter of this disease, possibly within this episode. But of course, we found out, like, as he's reading the book, she's like, okay, we already read this, and he has to explain to her that we already, because of this seems like, we're living the same day. I'm putting you back earlier than you remember. So she's kind of continuing the same, from the same moment. So obviously she has no recollection of like what's going on in between her being suspended. So they wound up, investigating the attack on them. Of course, they go down to the planet, because why not? Let's go investigate what the heck is going on, right? We find out that the First Servant has, the bio implants on him, which pretty much protects him from, any type of disease on the planet. Like pretty much like, in Magellan, the planet they're from, nobody gets sick. Nobody, pretty much nobody gets hurt or anything like that. Everybody's protected, due to special circumstances from this planet. And we know that the first servant is special to this planet, as we find out later in this episode why he is. Um, they wound up investigating the crash ship, which I thought was funny because I'm like, of course, you want to investigate the ship you just blew up and sent to the planet, right? So they wound up finding something on there. They found a neural implant which was going to be used to detain the first servant or block him from doing whatever that they needed him to do, which I thought was pretty interesting. Um, you get a moment in the show where Pike and Laura, they wind up meeting back up, and he asks her, the situation, because they don't like to kind of intermingle species outside of that planet. Nobody outside of Magellan can stay on there except for people from the planet themselves. They want to keep it a pure race for the most part. And then he asked, of course, real cliche, ask her if she can have friends, which I thought was freaking hilarious. He asked if she can have friends. We definitely get, like I said, we see more of that relationship between Pike and Allura, which I really, really like, because definitely gives him more background than we've previously gotten from other movies, where you really just get to see him in like a commanding lead, but never just kind of how he is in Captain. I really appreciate this show for that, because it definitely shows Chris, man, is a lot like I don't want to say a lot like Kurt, because I really feel like they want to differentiate that, but definitely while still commanding, still very aware of what he has to do, and of course the timeline that he has as well, because we start off knowing that he's going to die supposedly within this 10-year time frame that he's gotten about his future. We then get Ibanga, I'm gonna get it right. Get it. He asking the first servant's dad, if the technology, if they could use this on a potentially his daughter, to save her from the potential disease that she has. And of course, they pretty much say, "Hey, we're not loaning out this technology. This is going to stay on the planet, yada yada yada." And so he's got to try to figure out another way to pretty much get her to find some treatment for it, because that is like one of his main goals upon, of course, attending the crew. Then of course, Pike, I feel like it's like the mission of Starfleet or a Starfleet captain. You got to sleep with the locals, right? Pike's wound up hooking up with Allura. And then we cut back to the first servant finding Ivanga's daughter on the ship, and playing with her, pretty much picking up on the conversation from earlier in the show, where he can pretty much hear it because he's pretending to be asleep. He pretty much hears that there is somebody on the ship, and he figures it out that it's her, and of course telling him it's a possible way that he can help her. Then directly after this, of course, he gets kidnapped after they try to leave immediately after that and go back to wherever they were trying to go, or escape to another ship they were trying to go. And we find out that first servant was able to transport himself back to Enterprise, kind of faking them out as far as like them actually leaving. And then of course they pretty much like leave no stone unturned on the ship. They search the entire ship, wind up finding them hidden, which is definitely speaks to the intelligence of Spock. I love young Spock, man. He's not even that much older, that much younger than where he is now. But I love how smart he is, and he, of course, being the science officer, how he's able to pick up on certain things that normally anybody else on the ship wouldn't get. And I feel like the dynamic of like the interesting ties, the crew, the cast itself is really good. Like everybody plays with each other well. Does a really good job. Really, like I said, I'm really loving Spock in the show. I thought I was going to have an issue with it. Thought I was going to have an issue with like, oh man, we're going to get it. Every time you see like somebody play a younger version of a character, or like kind of like a prequel story like that, it's kind of like you already know where it's going. So it's only so much that you can play with in between the lines without crossing your streams there. Like I said, they wound up finding them. We then get back to the planet, which they wound up going back to Magellan. And they found out that they sent the kid back to Magellan, who we then found out is a part of a ritual sacrifice. I feel like this is like a big thing in like the science fiction shows, right? There's always like a like a Aztec episode or like some type of ritual episode where they try to like protect the person that's being sacrificed, and you can't explain to the locals exactly what you're doing because they won't understand it. It looks inhumane, and of course Chris is losing his mind. He's like, nah, I can't stand for this. I'm telling Starfleet as soon as they get the chance, and of course they can't interfere because this is not a part of Federation space. They can't interfere with how this works. We see that the boy gets hooked up to a machine that apparently nobody really knows how it works, but it does wind up killing the host. So we do see that this serves some purpose. Like, for whatever reason, they can only use young children to be able to sustain the planet's life. Everything that they have, everything that they've achieved is through some sacrifice of a child. And of course, she tries to break it down and, you guys, do the same thing. No, we really don't. But they wind up and doing that, and Chris is like, nah, I'm not for it. And of course, we find out that his father was pretty much hired these guys to protect him and stop this ritual sacrifice, because like this is wrong. There's no reason, there's no way they should continue to do this, and they're trying to find other ways to stop this from happening on a consecutive basis, but still haven't found a way to do that. You can see definitely, like I said, Pike is conflicted about the entire situation. And hey, he just had sex with this woman. Like, he thought he was about to establish a relationship, and he cannot stand by and watch this happen, especially not for kids. And that's just a big no. And as we know, Pike is destined to protect 3 kids in the future, which is going to be the cause of his supposed death. So like I said, it's a lot. They kind of add all that in together. But like I said, they pretty much can't interfere with the planet and their ritual sacrifice. Nobody apparently knows. Like the planet, nobody else on the planet knows this is the method of which they're using. I'm pretty sure if they did, they probably would stop doing it. But like I said, this was an amazing episode. I really like how, definitely how tense this was in terms of like, once you find out like, what's going on, it's just like, man, it's kind of hard to watch because the boy is willingly sacrificing himself to, for the planet. He really feels like he's doing this planet a good deed, or he's doing the right thing here. And who's to say there's no way to know for sure what's going to happen if they didn't or they did not. But they're not willing to take that chance. So, like I said, good old sci-fi ritual sacrifice episode. Is this the right thing to do? Is it not? Is it, whatever the case may be. But like I said, this was definitely good seeing, more of the crew, and Chris and everybody doing what they need to do, and definitely seeing Uhura step up and play a little bit more of the security role on the ship with Leon. And like I said, good episode. Like I said, catch us. Can't wait to catch us back in space for another episode. I'm looking forward to next week's episode. And this has been another review. Terrell Around the Geek, episode 6, Strange New Worlds. See you.